Hello, lovely sewing friends. So, I have had a week. You know when you've had a week? I've had a week. So, I took a little bit of a break, but now I'm back. So, we are going to get into some fun stuff. So, I thought I would take you guys on a tour around my new temporary sewing studio. Now, as someone who is creative, as someone who is very type A, and someone that is organized, color coordinated, my mind is at peace when I know where things are. It is no surprise to anyone that knows me that moving house has been a little bit overwhelming. However, I think that this is a great opportunity to show you guys that you do not need an aesthetical sewing studio, nor do you need the ideal setup to actually do your sewing. Because by not having my usual sewing studio set up, I've noticed it has been a lot harder for me to actually sew. And I think I'll learn from that eventually. But right now, I'm a little bit annoyed and agitated. So I'm going to take you guys through this room up here. So I'm currently staying at my sister's, and this is her working from home office. So it's kind of like a little bit of a storeroom, I think you would say. So like in the background here, we've got some shelves, and it's just got like some of her and her husband's kind of like you got some golf stuff over there. You've got some stuff that she's selling online over there on like Depop and whatnot. But I think what we're going to do is I'm going to first of all kind of show you around, and then we can discuss. So this that I'm sitting on, so basically I think it's best if I kind of like show you the area. So basically you come in through this door here, right? And you come into the room, and then we've got a desk over here. So also my old apartment used to have wooden floors, and therefore my chair that was real. And see, this is the thing with moving, right? When you move, you realize how seamless, pun intended, things just worked. So for example, this room has carpet, right? So first of all my thread gets stuck in the carpet. So I'm seeing every single strand of thread that's come off my sewing machine and whatnot under my fabric and everything. And it's more difficult to vacuum up. I literally have to be on my hands and knees and picking up every thread of fabric, which is just not fun. Also, the chair that I'm sewing on here is just your standard like dining room chair. And the issue with that is that it doesn't slide in and out. It's not on wheels like my normal sewing chair. So that gets annoying, because when I sit down, I'm so used to scooching in, but now it's kind of like I've got to hop my chair in. So that's that. So then the desk here, there's no storage with it. So I used to kind of I had a big drawer underneath my desk, kind of like here. So I would just pull out my drawer, and that is where I kept all my snips, all my selection of threads, all my bobbins, all my pins, my specialty pins, my needles, my replacement blades for my overlocker, everything like that stayed close to my sewing machine, so I didn't have to like grab it all the time. Also another thing with this right here, like I would normally have storage around my sewing machine area. With this, I obviously don't. So things inadvertently, right, what happens is they get relegated to my ironing board. Now, because my sister isn't a sewer, because my sister just lives her day-to-day life, which we love, her iron and ironing board it's the standard, I have a very beautiful ironing board that I'm missing a lot currently in storage, and I miss it and I want it back. So I found that having a ironing board, whilst it's good, I tend to use it more as extra storage because I don't have storage elsewhere. And then also it's I because it's got storage on it, I have to then clear it off to then do things, and then all of that ends up on that table, and then when I need to sew, I need to then move it all back here. So I'm just constantly moving things back and forth, back and forth. So there's that, which is fine, but it's like I'm just telling you guys about like how difficult it is to not be in my space, and kind of what I've realized from this is that I need a system and I need a process with the way I work. Also, I think a lot of my things, like, for example, why have I got tape here? And then I've got like extra bobbin pins, you know, I've got things just not in the right place. Like I may have used that. I don't think I've even used that since I've been here, but it was just in the box of the stuff that I brought to this place for 2 months. And now it's just here, and it's kind of like, it doesn't have a home. Therefore, also, this is a thing I realized. When things don't have a home, I end up having to keep them in eyesight so I don't forget where they are, right? And then what that leads to is me having a lot of clutter, right? So there's that. Also, because I've been doing a bit of filming downstairs on the dining room table, I've had to cart things up and down quite a bit. Therefore, I've kind of had like a designated box down here. So you can see my overlocker's in there, right? And then I have my sewing machine there. Now, that is because I'm having to go up and downstairs so much with this stuff that having a box with it all in makes it easy to just grab and go downstairs, because I would use this area here for, like, I did some hemming for my sister before she left, and then I've done a little bit of sewing up here, but I'm mainly sewing downstairs. But the one benefit of this room is that it has a massive heater, so I like put that on for like 5-10 minutes, and this wall is so nice and cozy. But it's kind of not somewhere in the house I would naturally gravitate to in the evening. It's more so, gosh, this room is quite chaotic at the moment, that I actually don't want to spend a lot of time in here. Even though I can do some sewing in here, it's just very overwhelming. For example, right, so when I moved out, it was literally like, I need to get this area of my studio packed up today. So just chuck everything in a box and figure it out later. Now is later and I still haven't figured it out. So basically, when the drawer that was underneath my desk under there, I literally just tipped it into this massive container, right? Because I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to need the things that were in that drawer eventually. But the problem with that is, in the drawer, they were all in like little containers. They were all separated, whereas in this one big container, they're not. So there's that. Another thing is that also in this sewing studio, I don't have a rack, like a rail to like hang all my patterns on. So I'm temporarily storing them up here, which is good. But also I'm having to store them over other boxes. So in this box down here, it's just a whole bunch of those storage containers. And before you even start, yes, I can unpack all of that into those storage containers. However, I'll be moving into my new apartment within the next month, and then I'm going to have to reorganize it again. So it's kind of defeating the purpose of organizing it for here to then only reorganize it when I get somewhere else, you know? Because I also think like the things that you put into the like an organizational system works really well in a certain space. Like if I was in this studio for a year, let's say, I would take a couple of weeks to get it all nicely set up. However, in the past month that I've been in this house, I actually haven't had the mental energy, nor the time, nor the health, because I've been sick for the last week, to actually want to be in this room, let alone sew in this room, let alone organize and tidy and clean this room. So it was a great opportunity for me to sew in a new space. However, because it's not set up how I want it to be, it makes it quite difficult. I've noticed like I need a big table. I just need a big table. Like having my big cutting table was so useful, because then also I had horizontal storage and I had vertical storage because I had like shelves near it. So I knew where my sewing scissors were. I knew where my fabric scissors were. I know where like all of my stuff already was without having to think about it. You know, it's kind of like when you go to a new supermarket, you're just like, where are the muesli bars? Are they in the health food section? Are they in the snack section? Are they in the pick and mix section? Like, it's just so frustrating. And you have to go there a couple of times over time to find what you're looking for. Hence why this can get quite overwhelming. I had good intentions. I really did. You know, I planned to like do a whole bunch of pattern making. I even brought my pattern master with me. But I just haven't. I think it's mainly like the organizational stuff and the space that I've been needing to do something. And I think that only kind of demonstrates how important your environment and your mindset is. Let me just pop you properly up there. I think that's why it's so important for your space to be logical to you. Because if it's not logical to you, then you run into this kind of thing where it's just very overwhelming and very kind of disorientating, really. So there's that. In other news, I am currently working on a rain jacket, and it is very fitting that I'm working on a rain jacket now, because it has been raining over the past couple of weeks, and it's just like I realize how much I need a raincoat. So I would have loved to have finished my raincoat by now. However, life has been lifing, and that's also another thing. Sewing isn't a priority in day-to-day life. It's things like, you know, gotta move out of this apartment, gotta get work done, gotta, you know, go grocery shopping, gotta do all of that kind of stuff. So sewing can not be a priority. But one thing I really noticed over the last couple of weeks is that sewing now is my job. Sewing and social media are my job. And I've really missed the kind of spontaneity of sewing. And I've also missed the doing it for the joy of doing it, rather than being like, oh, I'm going to make, you know, a turtleneck this afternoon. And then the entire process, I'm thinking to myself, I should have filmed this, like this would make a great reel and da. When I just wanted to sew, you know? I think that's what a lot of people come across when they make their hobby their career. You know, you no longer enjoy your hobby because it is your career. And whilst I have recognized that, I haven't put it into practice yet. Because up till now, I was working a part-time job, so I actually didn't have a lot of time to sew for myself, and I did miss it. However, it wasn't a priority, whereas now I'm starting to notice I need to sew for my love of sewing rather than for my need to create content. So I think that's a good change I've noticed. And yeah, I think out of this whole process, I really, because I think this is the first, not the first time, but this is kind of like that transitioning phase where I don't have a full setup studio. And I loved having that, but I don't have that now. And you don't know what you got till it's gone. And this has really hit home for me now because, you know, I'm having to think through every step of the process. And also because things don't have a place, I put something down and then a couple nights later, I'll come back to it. And I would have used this desk for something else in the meantime. And then that thing that I put down is now moved. But because I wasn't in a sewing headspace, I didn't remember where I put that. And also that thing doesn't have a home here, so it could be anywhere. So yeah, I really want to get on with my rain jacket. And hopefully, I think what would be quite nice is when I'm setting up my sewing studio, I'll kind of take you guys through that and I'll kind of show you what I'm implementing and also what's also possible, because I think a lot of people don't have a sewing space. So it'll be quite good to kind of see what other people do in their sewing space, because this is a great sewing space. However, it doesn't work for me because I need more storage. But yeah, on that note, I guess I'll see you guys next week. Kind of a short video this time. However, I will bring you more updates next week, I guess. So yeah, I love you and leave you. Bye.